Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday here on Off the Board. I am the big man on campus, joined here as always by our Monday co-host, Ian Cameron. Today is January 21st, 2019. And if you're new to the show, this is a show where we talk live betting, get you ready for the night in sports and the coming up day tomorrow. And we'll chat a little college basketball as well, some futures, things like that. I'm in the futures mood today. Ian Cameron, how you doing?
We're ready to go with another Monday night. Looking forward to it.
Yep, always fun to have you join us here. Let's kind of update people on what's going on. Hope all of you had a great evening and had a good weekend as well. Ian, how was your weekend?
Well, it was mostly football on Sunday, so we were excited about that. Betting-wise, not great. I mean, I had Kansas City. That didn't work out too well. Did have a small bet on the Rams. That was, fortuitous to say the least. I mean, lots of controversy there. What do we have to say about the football? My first take on this really is from the two games on Sunday is officiating. I mean, it was just god-awful in both games. Roughing the passer penalties that shouldn't have been called, missed pass interference calls that should have been called, things that were flagged that probably didn't deserve to be flagged, whether it was Bill Vinovich in the first game or Khalid Blakeman in the second game. If you're the NFL, you're hanging your head in shame for really allowing officiating to almost urinate on two tremendous football games from an entertainment perspective. Like the officiating, Jeff, was so bad in those two games that it almost took all the good of those two games away, about how thrilling they were, how entertaining they were. But it's almost like all of that goes to the wayside and all of that gets ruined because officiating is awful. And now the NFL, I hear earlier today, tabling, finally maybe looking into getting pass interference called. Hello, dummies. CFL's had that for years. You can challenge in the pass interference calls. In fact, if there's not pass interference called on a certain play, you can still throw the challenge flag to maybe get that reverted and that make the referee change his mind after a video review to make that pass interference and get that call changed. So CFL's had that instituted in their league for years. I can't figure out for the life of me why the NFL hasn't done it yet. And finally, it looks like they're going to have some real discussion about getting that changed. But just in closing here, Jeff, the officiating was so bad, it unfortunately stained what were two tremendous conference championship games.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, we talked about this at length on today's show at 3. I mean, it was ugly, it was hideous, and it's something that we continue to see in this league. I mean, it's nothing that ever changes. It's always something with these officials, and until they decide as a league to fix it, it's not going to get any better. It's ugly. It's always marred these games by stupid and bad officiating. The pass interference non-call was about the worst I've ever seen. I don't really know how to talk about it. It was that bad. But we now have a Rams and a Patriots Super Bowl, and then I'm sure as the day gets closer, we'll be talking props, we'll be talking everything. Your one-stop shop for Super Bowl coverage, SBR Forum and SBRpicks.com. Ian, let's update everyone on some college hoops going on right now. We have some games that have already went final here. UNC with another huge offensive night. This game goes way over. North Carolina blows out Virginia Tech 103-82, an NBA score there. Michigan State beats up and covers the spread there against Maryland. And then you had a lot of, obviously, small schools. NJIT with a nice upset over North Florida. Gulf Coast covers, wins big against Stetson. Ian, games going on currently, 38-33 at the half. Nebraska up on Rutgers. I think that's kind of what we thought would happen there. Georgetown an early 18-13 lead on Creighton. I kind of like Georgetown tonight at home. I thought it was a pretty solid number on the Hoyas. I know you're a Hoya guy, Ian.
Yeah, I like Georgetown too. Unfortunately, I sent out what I thought was a stronger bet on Maryland, and that didn't turn out too well with that. I knew what I was getting into, and I'm going to use the big man term, salute to Michigan State. I knew that if they brought their A game tonight, hey, Maryland's probably in some trouble, and that's exactly what happened. But Maryland, I was going to try my luck there. 5-0 they were against the number on the road coming into this game tonight. They had not lost a game by more than 5 points coming into tonight, and those losses were against the likes of Virginia and Purdue. No shame in any of those losses for Maryland, but hey, Michigan State was too much for them. Cassius Winston, great again. Matt McQuaid hitting 3-pointers. When he's doing that, it's tough to beat this basketball team. And Michigan State gets a nice win there. You're right about Georgetown, Jeff. I'm a big fan of this team. They're up now 21-13 on Creighton. Creighton on the road, it seemed too easy to want to like Georgetown. I actually bet them on the money line instead of the 1.5. I always do that with the small favorites, laying 2 or less. I prefer to just get them on the money line in that spot. I do have Georgetown in pocket here. I hope they get the job done. And I don't like Creighton on the road. I've said this over again many times, Jeff. This team's not been great on the road. If you neutralize Tyshawn Alexander and Krempelli inside, there's not a lot to elsewhere where Creighton can go offensively, and we know defensively they have always had their troubles. Defense has never been the forte here under Greg McDermott for years on this Creighton team, and Georgetown off to a really nice start there. I know tipping off right now, we've got Iowa State, Kansas in the Big 12, Baylor, West Virginia, another Big 12 game, and Marshall and Western Kentucky in the Conference USA just getting underway as well, along with Northern Colorado, Idaho State, all 9 p.m. Eastern tip-offs. For those of you wondering, in the 9 p.m. tip-offs, I got a little Marshall +5 in that game, full game. I've got Kansas, Iowa State over, because I think Kansas is playing with a little bit more pace without Azubuike. So those are the 2 bets I bet at 9 o'clock college basketball. In case you're looking to get in live, that's what I'm on.
Yeah, I took my play tonight. I'm on West Kentucky -2.5 in the first half. I thought this was as good a spot as you're going to find in college basketball. You look at this West Kentucky team. I know a lot about this group. Bet them a lot this year. I've been very much involved in what they have going on, and it's kind of been a long odyssey with Lamonte Bearden. They had him suspended because of academics. Then he had a little bit of an injury. Then he came back and he kind of went into the doghouse for Rick Stansbury, and we didn't see him. He was kind of out of the lineup, and he came back. They've lost 3 straight. He came back Saturday and gave them some really good minutes. They won. They had to kind of fight back, and I think Florida Atlantic hit their first 8 threes, and it was kind of a game where they had to kind of get back into it. But I heard the press conference after the game, and Bearden and Hollingsworth both talked, and you could see kind of the positivity coming out of this group. They were ready to go against Marshall. They were excited about this game tonight at home. Bearden, it seems like he's getting a little confidence back again. And I really like the spot. I thought, obviously in revenge here, it's hard to beat a team twice. And West Kentucky has been very good in the first half. So I really like this game. Hopefully it comes to fruition here. I'll be honest, though, from a full game perspective, it's hard to lay 5 points with them in a full game. They just don't ever pull away unless it's against a bad basketball team. I'm hoping maybe, Ian, for our sakes, this game's close throughout. Maybe it's a 31-27 game at half, and then ends up being like a 78-73 game or something, or 78-74.
I was just going to say, yeah, give us a Western Kentucky 8-point lead at halftime. Give us a Western Kentucky 3-point win, and we're all happy. That would be perfect. That would be absolutely excellent. Jeff, I want to commend you on something right now that you just said. You said you heard a nice press conference there for Western Kentucky that emphasized that they had this game circled, that they may be ready to go, ready for a good performance, particularly out of the gate. You know what that tells me? That tells me you put in the work, you put in time, you put in the elbow grease to find the edges that you need in this business to try to cash tickets and win money. That's what it's about. I mean, you got to find quotes. You got to look at what the coaches are saying sometimes, look at what the players are saying at certain points during the season. Take an example of a bet that I had, a different sport, NHL, but last week I cashed a ticket with the New York Rangers, +130. They were a home underdog against the Carolina Hurricanes. And the game before that, they lost 7-5 against Columbus, and their head coach, David Quinn, just ripped the tar out of them after that game. We didn't compete. We better be a hell of a lot better than this. We start to feel good about ourselves, and this is the effort we come up with. It's a joke, he said. Basically, really angry with his team going prior to that game against Carolina. Sure enough, I heard that. I saw the video of David Quinn saying that, just giving his team the gears. What happens the next time out? The New York Rangers at home, they beat Carolina, I think 6-2 that night at home as a plus 130 underdog at home, and that's a Rangers team that was not playing all that great. But that coach's quote and hearing the coach really get upset with his team paid dividends. And again, if you can find coach's quote, players' quotes going into games that maybe they've got a little bit more urgency, intensity, focus going into a particular game, those are the edges that you can find that maybe the odds makers aren't incorporating.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I kind of always I have a list in my office right here where I kind of look into teams that have good media departments and they do a good job with videos and things like that. That's a great way to get a lot of good info. Like I know and this is all really good handicapping stuff. There's a guy Bob Hoffman down at Mercer, the coach. He does a radio spot before every game. Like it's public info. You can go listen to it. And in that radio broadcast, he basically details, what the game plan is tonight, who's going to play. Rick Stansberry, he's also at West Kentucky, he's very available to the media, and they have a really good media department down there. They always broadcast the games. They always get the kids to come in after the fact. And Stansberry will give you a 20. Texas Tech's very good with that too. Chris Beard gives you very long, detailed press conferences. You got to listen to that stuff because that is, they give you updates on the kids, and you can kind of look at their facial expression and see, is this kid, kind of in the doghouse. Bearden was in the doghouse for a while with Stansberry, and that stuff's important. That's what handicapping is all about. It's going out and finding that little stuff, those little motivations. You could see the kids' faces when they asked them about what, Marshall. You ready for this game? Yeah, the crowd's been great down there. The one thing about Western Kentucky that we have to remember is this is one of the youngest teams in the country. And at times, you're going to go through lumps as a team like that. I fully believe that at the end of the season, they will win this conference because I think they have the best team. I think they have the best player in Basie. And I think, when it's all come to a head, they got to have this game, though, tonight. They got to make it happen. But let's update some stuff here in the NBA as well, and then we'll kind of get into an open form here. Sixers up 63-50. Got about 38 seconds to go in the first half down in South Philly. It's funny. I've talked, Ian, before about my kind of my mentor when I was younger in this business, the guy from Philadelphia that I know. And he called me, told me he was at the game, and he goes, Embiid might go off for 40 tonight. He's like, they can't guard him in this game. I said, yeah, you look right. I mean, he is really burying this Rockets team tonight. He's getting to the line. He's been effective. And, credit the Sixers. Harden's going to beat you. But right now for the Rockets, there's just not a lot of players on this team outside of James Harden right now. They just don't have much, Ian.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, they're a banged-up basketball team. Clint Capella is one of the most underrated injuries you can ever find in the NBA. I mean, that guy is a presence inside. He's a great defender, absolutely. One of the better defenders in the league. And the Houston Rockets, they're not defending anything without him so far. You saw the Brooklyn in a game last week. They just shredded this team. Houston Rockets, against the LA Lakers, they gave up a ton of points in that game the other night, that big Saturday night showdown. I mean, it was not a great defensive team to begin with. Not the way, of course, Mike D'Antoni gets that team to play with his style, but they're even worse without Clint Capella on the defensive end of the basketball court. In fact, I laid 4 with the Sixers tonight. A little small play in this game just because I just think Houston's one of those bet against teams for now until the markets catch up to this absence of Capella, because I really think he does matter. And right now we're seeing it in full display tonight. Sixers doing anything they want offensively.
Yeah, you're totally right. Good call by you on the Sixers so far. It looks good. We'll see how it ends up finishing. Someone's asking me about my how I'm doing in the contest with King Rail. I am doing well. I'm 8-6. I'm up about a unit and a half We're only through 14 picks, and he's got a couple pending. But look, just keep my head above water. I had 0-3 night, so I was able to fight back. I went 2-1 today. I had the what did I have today? I had the Knicks. That was my loser, but I had the I had the Pelicans. They won big, and then I had the under in the Miami Boston game, under 213.5. Two real good defenses there. Miami's been playing a lot of games. I thought they'd be kind of lackluster, and they were. So I was one of those knockdown drag at NBA games. I think it was 107-99 or something. One of your typical NBA games. So yeah, it worked out well. 2-1 day. I'll take it. King Rail has 2 pending. So sorry, Rail, but we'll be rooting against you in those. What else do we have here?
Of course, it's an NBA contest, big man. You got to root against. Yeah. It's all in good fun, and it's just bragging rights and all that. It's not a personal thing or anything, but yeah, of course, you're rooting against him. It's a contest, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've been actively rooting against him. He's on Portland right now, so hoping for a Jazz blowout here at home. We will have. I probably be interested in a second half play here in this Sixer Houston game. We'll get that number here in just a second. Sixers with 65 in the first half. Nice for the home crowd. This Sixer team just continues to impress at home. 19-5 going towards 20-5 at home this year. You look at this team tonight. I mean, the Rockets have 50 points, and James Harden has 27 of them. I got to be honest, the over in the second half looks good in this game because, Ian, you know what's going to happen in the second half? James Harden's going to have like 20 free throws, and the Sixers are going to keep getting what they want offensively. That's not going to settle down. I'm very much looking forward to a second half number here in this game because I will be betting it. You can mark my words with that. Ian, what do you want in hockey tonight? What do you got going on the ice?
Yeah, I mean, NBA, by the way, we should talk about it because it's coming up and then we'll get to NHL. Yep, Warriors and Lakers we got coming up.
I was going to get to it in just a minute. I just wanted to kind of update everyone on the action that we have here. Quickly, let me get a total out to you guys in this Houston-Philadelphia game. We got a total, which should be coming out here in just a second. It's 113.5 at 5 dimes. I mean, we had 115 in the first half, and we had how many free throws? Houston had 9 free throws. That's bound to go up. The Sixers are doing shooting the ball well. You have to figure Houston's going to shoot better than 27% from 3 and 41% from the field. Neither team shooting 3 well. Ian, 9 for 32 from 3. That's going to pick up, and they still scored 115. I'm going to go over 113.5 in the second half. If you wish to opine on that, 113 over in the second half. Ian, what do you got in hockey tonight? What's on the ice?
Yeah, it's a light night, or light day and night, because they, of course, had a couple afternoon games, with it being Martin Luther King Day. Of course, NBA had a ton of day games. The NHL always only has a couple of day games usually when it's MLK Day, and that was the same today. Nashville beat Colorado 4-1 in an afternoon game today. Nashville, their road record has not been great. Their road performances have not been great. They've been much better in Music City, but they got the job done today. Los Angeles, how about the Kings? A rare win for them. 4-3, they beat the St. Louis Blues earlier this afternoon. The Vegas Golden Knights, who have been playing great hockey, not so great today. They lose 4-2 at home to the Minnesota Wild. That's a big underdog winner. If you had the Stones to take the Minnesota Wild, plus 160 on the money line with them. So congratulations if you were on the Wild there. And we got an over the total winner for yours truly with San Jose and Florida. Florida leading San Jose 5-2. 11 minutes to go in the third period. Their game goes over the number, which is good for me. I'm telling you what, the totals have been where it's at for me this season in the NHL. The sides, I've not done great with sides, to be honest with you. 90% of my plays have been totals, and for good reason. The totals are cashing. That's where the profits have been, so we're going to stick with that. San Jose, Florida going over the total. And the San Jose Sharks now, this will be 3 losses in a row. They lost to Arizona. They lost to Tampa. It looks like they're on their way to losing to Florida, who, if they win, the Panthers, struggling mightily throughout most of the month. This would be their 3rd straight win, and the wins were against Toronto Friday nights, Nashville Saturday, 2 very good teams there, and here's another good team in San Jose, and Florida's on their way to beating them right now. So things starting to turn around a little bit for the Panthers.
Ian, if you remember last year, I had a New York or Las Vegas Golden Knight future. I had a 30-1 future. This year, I asked you. I don't know if you remember this, but I asked you what was a good team to play in the futures market, and you told me the Sharks, and I bet it. And they're doing quite well in this season. So hopefully that continues. I don't really bet the NHL. I mean, occasionally I'll bet Ian's picks. He does real well with totals, man. He's been on the ball with these. Ian, I saw recently. There's a lot of talk about these Chicago Blackhawks and their first period overs. Or in general, their overs. I mean, you look at this group right now. I mean, I'm looking at their scores. Take a listen to this. Blackhawks Penguins 5-3. Flames Blackhawks 4-3, Predators Blackhawks 4-3, 4-3 Golden Knights Blackhawks 8-5, 4-3, 8-5. I mean, this team goes over every game.
It's amazing, and the funny thing is, you're not going to see a total more than 6.5, and most of these totals are hitting 7 or more. So for
me, do you ever think you will? Where you will see a high total, like a 7?
The thing is, it's these same morons in the NFL that think, oh, that total's 59. It's too high. We got to bet it under. It's the same people that if they put a total of 7 for an NHL game, that same group of lunkheads is going to basically say, oh, that total's too high if it comes out 7. We're going to slam this thing under. And I think that's why bookmakers, believe it or not, even though overs are usually the in thing to bet, they're trepidatious a little bit to put a total of 7 in an NHL game, even though there are teams that deserve 7s regularly with their game totals. And the Chicago Blackhawks are one of those teams. I mean, they are scoring goals. Pat Kane is still producing offensively. Alex DeBrincat's been great. Their back end is chipping in offensively. Jonathan Toews is at a resurgent season with goal scoring production. But they can't keep the puck out of their own net. Their defense is atrocious. It's abysmal. Their goaltending is marginal at best since Corey Crawford went down. Cam Ward is terrible. Colin Delia, I mean, you give him credit for being Delia, I should say, is how it's pronounced. Colin Delia. He was pretty good when he first got called up, but he's starting to come back to the pack. Teams are seeing more game film on the guy. They know his tendencies. They know his sort of style and net. So he's not really taking opposing shooters by surprise to the way he did in his first few starts. So you add it all up. You got suspect goaltending. You got a bad defense. You still got a team that can score goals, and you got the perfect over team, and that's Chicago right now. An incredible first period overrun for them too. What are they? Something like 25-8 to the over in the first period. Some kind of crazy run like that. And I'm looking at that New York Islanders Chicago game tomorrow on the NHL slate. You better believe I got first period over and full game over circled in that game.
Good stuff, Ian. Looking forward to that. We have I get a great number here. I got an early over on this second half. It's at the 114.5 most books. I got 113.5. How about that, Ian? A move at totals in the NBA. How about that? Second half totals. I bet it, and people just listen. Pounding the over in Sixers Rockets. I like it.
Well, think about it. Houston's down in the game. They play at a fast pace. They're not going into a snail and going home. I mean, if they're going to get back into the basketball game, they're going to play the way they always play, up and down, try to hit some threes and get back in the game that way. They got a foul, they'll do it. It's definitely got the recipe of an over second half, and I guess bettors are seeing that.
Yeah, hopefully we have plenty of points in the second half there. A barn burner down in Western Kentucky, 10-8 at the 11-minute mark. Low-scoring game here.
Hey, there's a Western Kentucky pace. This is a Western Kentucky pace right now. If you're Western Kentucky, you like this pace. Marshall wants to go up and down. Marshall wants to get shots off quickly. This is not the kind of pace Marshall wants to play at. So pace-wise, Western Kentucky's got it where they want it. But Marshall playing some pretty good defense, and Marshall, I'll be honest, their defense has improved throughout the Dan D'Antoni era as time's gone on. But certainly Western Kentucky, they got this game in the lower scoring realm, and usually that's going to be a good thing for them.
Yeah, slow scoring game there so far. We'll come back to that one a little bit later. Baylor up 18-14 on West Virginia, possibly a letdown game for the Mountaineers, and Iowa State up early on KU. KU 27-0 in their last 27 Big Monday games at home. Bill Self has destroyed teams on Monday night. This is a tough matchup. I got to tell you, Ian, and I kind of want to get into some college hoops futures. Iowa State starting to get very healthy. You look at Layard, shot blocker, he's played well. They've gotten some really nice minutes out of Halliburton, Nick Weiler-Babb. Shayok is playing like the best player in the conference. Jacobson's been good. Lindell Wigginton's getting healthy. It's a good damn team over there in Ames. And then the conference right now that I got to tell you is, I think, pretty open. I think this is the best conference in the country. I really believe that. I think in the Big 12, I mean, every single night, every team is just really good. Yeah, I think this is going to be a barn burner all night. Iowa State getting 5 here. Ian, I took a future today on Texas Tech University, and shout out to PropSwap, very seamless transaction. I got a 33-1 ticket on them to win the tournament. I really like them. I know right now, they've lost 2 in a row. I couldn't really care less about the season. I'm ready for them in March. I think in March they're going to be just the team I want. Solid guy in Culver that can score and take a game over. About as good a defense as you could ask for. A solid front line, great coaching, great young, kind of veteran mix. I really like what I see out of Texas Tech. Them in Oklahoma, I'm really high on in the Big 12. What are your thoughts on Iowa State going forward, and what do you think about Texas Tech as a future?
Yeah, that Big 12 is kind of wide open. I mean, we're finding out it's not the same dominant, going to roll to the conference title, regular season title, Kansas Jayhawks this year. It isn't. I mean, they've had some warts, they've had some bumps. They lose inexplicably on the weekend to West Virginia. How does that happen? The way the Mountaineers have been playing most of the conference season. They've already suffered some losses that are, get blown out. Not just lose, blown out by Iowa State. They lose to Arizona State, which is a team that's been up and down. So there's been some losses on the Kansas's ledger that leads you to believe that, hey, this is maybe not the same great Bill Self team, especially without Azubuike. He's made a big difference. They're trying to go smaller now, trying to go more guard-oriented, quicken the pace. We'll see if that works for them long term. But I don't think this is a conference they can dominate this season, maybe the way they have in the past. Iowa State is coming on. There's no question about that. Steve Prohm's done a good job here with this program. Getting Shayok away from Virginia. How about not only getting him from Virginia, but also turning him into a scorer? He's become a much more lethal offensive player here in Ames this year than he was at Virginia. Maybe that's a product of, you're just playing in a more up and down type of style, up and down the court, obviously, than you do at Virginia. But it's definitely benefited him. The defense has been improved this year for Iowa State. So this is a good Cyclones team. You mentioned Texas Tech, Jeff, and you're right. They've sort of had a bit. That was a loss I didn't like. Seeing them lose at Baylor the way they did, I thought they got out-competed, out-physicaled, which is not usually something that happens to Texas Tech. But in March, they've got all those check boxes you look for of teams that can make a run in March. Texas Tech checks a lot of those boxes, don't they? Quality coach and Chris Beard, check. Good defensive team, check. Make their free throws, check. Clutch go-to scorer in crunch time, Jarrett Culver, check. They check a lot of those boxes to win games in March, so we'll see if that pays dividends for Texas Tech in a couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, they have 4 top 50 wins. I really like what they're doing. Again, you look at they lost to Duke. They were in that game the whole way. If not for turnovers, they win that game, and I think they win it going away. A lot of people point to some of their wins. A lot of it was poor. I mean, the out-of-conference schedule was bad, but I think when the rubber meets the road at the end of the season, they get into the tournament. They have that veteran experience as well. They were there last year and went deep last year. Ian, want to update everyone on what's going on over at Piscataway. Big run here for Rutgers in the second half. They've outscored Nebraska 17-9 in the first 8 minutes here and take a 50-47 lead. And you know what I'm doing, Ian? I'm running to the betting window to try to grab Nebraska live here. If I can get a better price of, I don't know, let's say 1.5 or better, I'm going to probably take Nebraska here. You got to withstand a little run here from Rutgers. Crowd probably into it, but generally talent overseeds and supersedes. So, listen, I'll tell you right now, if Nebraska lose this game, I'd fire Tim Miles tomorrow. I mean, I hate Tim Miles to begin with, but You can't lose here. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Nebraska -1.5 live, -110, -1.5 live. I'm on that right now. I just submitted it. Nebraska -1.5 live against Rutgers, Ian, down 3.
And knowing Big Man's rage when he loses a bet sometimes, I know that if Nebraska doesn't come through for him here, he's going to write the university and say, "You fire Tim Miles right now."
I hate
after this.
Let me just say this again. I hate Tim Miles. Him and Chris Mullen, if they don't make the tournament this year, they must be fired. They must. It's that simple. Tim Miles has a Fran Dunphy look to him. He's that nice guy, and everybody wants to keep him around. But you know what happens to people like Fran Dunphy? They lose to fucking Penn and New Hampshire. That's what they do. You know, it's so typical with this fucking guy because, you know, I was really happy. I mean, we had a big game. We had a big game on Thursday against Memphis at home. You beat Houston. You beat Wichita. You had some nice wins. You beat an SEC team in Georgia. You beat Missouri as well. You're starting to look up. This team's 14-3, and then you fucking lose to Penn. Give me a fucking break. The Fighting Donald Trumps beat you. Look, I know Penn's improved. I know Steve Donahue's a nice guy and a good coach, but come on, Temple. I mean, give me a fucking break. Penn at home? Come on.
Yeah, to me, this is a game Nebraska has to win here coming up with this Rutgers game because I know Rutgers got a home win against Ohio State. You know, Rutgers has shown some capability on their home court there in the RAC, as they call it there. Steve Peichel, to me, is actually a pretty solid coach. I mean, I know he's had very little to work with since he's got there, but I think in time, if you give him time, and if he can somehow get some better level of athlete and talent and recruit into this program, I think they could get better in time. I don't know if there's only so far I think they can go in terms of getting better. I don't think they'll ever be Big Ten upper echelon team, but at least be a somewhat solid team. They are showing signs they might eventually get there, but still, for Nebraska, you're way ahead of Rutgers program-wise right now. You've got Isaac Copeland, you've got James Palmer, you've got Glenn Watson, you've got a senior-laden team that's coming off a tough loss against Michigan State that had your home winning streak in Lincoln snapped, losing to Michigan State. This is supposed to be a game where you have the focus, you have the intensity to get back on track and take care of business, even on the road against a team that you should beat. And right now, Nebraska's struggling with it, down 52-49 with about 10 minutes to go. We'll see if they can turn it around and come out on the winning end of this game. But they're getting work. They're getting a challenge. They're getting a game here so far from the Scarlet Knights.
Vegas Stacker saying, now that's a rant. Thank you, Vegas Stacker. Yeah, listen, when you know a team like I do, you got to be willing to bet against them, knowing they're going to play like shit, and they did. No way, Jose. Any chance West Kentucky makes the tournament? Yes, I think they will. Like I said, I think they will end up winning this conference and getting in there.
It won't be as large. It won't be as in that large. They have to win the tournament, but they should. I think they got a good chance to win the conference tournament anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Marshall's playing well. John Elmore's terrific. I think Old Dominion's interesting as well. Jeff Jones's crew, really good defensive team as usual. But Middle Tennessee.
I want to mention them.
To worry about. Yeah,
I want to mention them quickly because I saw that game. I put it on my television here this afternoon. It was an early start. Old Dominion and Charlotte. I'm telling you what, Old Dominion couldn't have had a worse first half. I mean, they were terrible. They were sleepwalking. But boy, whatever Golan said at halftime, it worked. They got the screws in defensively. They tightened it up. They brought the D in the second half, and Charlotte couldn't hit anything offensively. And Old Dominion turned, I think, something like an 8 or 9 point deficit into a solid win. I don't think they quite covered in the end. They were laying 7. I think they won by 6. But boy, they were down big, and they turned it around big time with that defense in the second half. They are a very good defensive team. They have a win against Syracuse on the road already on their resume. That's a good conference, big man. I love my Conference USA basketball. I think there's some good teams in this conference. It's a fun conference to watch. It's a competitive conference. I don't think Louisiana Tech's a bad team in this conference. They're decent. Middle Tennessee State's down a little bit, but I think because they had such a tough non-conference and adjusting to being without Kermit Davis, their old head coach, I think there's going to be some value to back Middle Tennessee State in games moving forward. That's a good conference. I like Conference USA.
Something I love about college basketball, and as we get, every year it becomes better and better. I think one of the great things about college basketball right now is the level of mid-major that we have, and the mid-majors are really good. I mean, really good. And I think this year you're going to have a lot of mid-majors that can go and win a game or two. Someone's asking about that on the chat. I have a couple. I think Lipscomb is a team that can win a game or two. Yes, Lipscomb down in the Atlantic Sun. Garrison Matthews is as good as it gets. Their starting five is really good. Rob Pepper, Marbury, or Eli Pepper, Rob Marbury, go along with Matthews. They're a really good team. The Casey Benson as a great coach. I think they're a team to keep your eye on. I think Houston.
They beat the tar out of Kennesaw State tonight, 86-57. So there you go. Lipscomb is very good.
Did cover too. How about that? 28-point favorites. They cover. I think Houston, obviously the Cougars, I think they have the moxie. I saw them live. They're really good. Breon Brady is a man. Defensively, they're really solid. I also like and this team, Ian, I'll tell you a team to keep your eye on. I had them on Saturday. They're starting to play some really good basketball. That's the Loyola Chicago Ramblers. They've won 5 of 6. There's a kid named Lucas Williamson. They just got back from injury. He had a hand injury. He is their best defender. He had 14 on Saturday against Indiana State. He is really important to their team. He's not Custer. He's not Krutwig. He's not Marquise Towns, but he is really good. He is a big component to that team. You're getting a nice edge from Cooper Kafis off the bench. He's giving you a couple threes a game. They're starting to play some good basketball, the Ramblers. Don't be surprised if they make another deep run. They have a great coach. They know how to win in March. They're a team that I would keep my eye on. One more, and I wanted to bring them up just because I think I really just wanted to talk about Morant. Murray State. I think John Morant should be the number one pick. I would be all over him if I'm the Suns. I think he's a guy long-term that is a star in the NBA. I think his size is, I mean, it's all you can ask for. If I'm the Suns, there is no other player I'm taking over Morant. He fits your team perfectly. I think Shaq Buchanan's been a real good player for them as well. Darnell Cowart, Tevin Brown. I like Murray State a lot, and they have a gigantic game this week against Belmont. I'll tell you what, guys. You know, if you're kind of new to college basketball or you just kind of look at the top 25, Ian will tell you, Thursday night, you got to watch that game on ESPNU. Those games are as good as it gets. Those two teams are as good as it gets. It'll be fun to watch Murray State, Ian. Morant is a special player.
He is amazing. And Jay Morant, you saw his basically the dunk he had from the game on over the weekend. I mean, it's been a highlight dunk everywhere. You've seen, if you haven't seen it, you're living under a rock by this time. He's amazing. That team is really good. I mean, they are a really, really good basketball team. Probably should win that Ohio Valley Conference, but Belmont's going to be a good test for them. Smoke the Belmont. You know, let's see how they do in that game. I'll tell you, speak of the mid-majors and teams that I've liked this season, teams that you maybe that I've made some money with mid-major wise. It's not. We talk about Murray State. We talk about Belmont from that conference. The biggest moneymaker for me in that conference this season has been Jacksonville State. That's right, Jacksonville State. Ray Harper. This guy's a coach that I've liked for years and years, going back to the other places he was at. They play good defense. And guess who's beaten Belmont twice this season? Jacksonville State. This is the team that is flying under the radar because Murray State gets the attention. Belmont gets the attention because they've been to the NCAA tournament, both of these teams, in recent years, the last decade plus. Jacksonville State doesn't get that attention, and you've been able to have great value in the betting markets betting them. You look at them, 7-3 against the spread their last 10 games. They're an ATS team, a profitable ATS team so far this season. They took West Virginia down to the wire in Morgantown, only lost by 2 in non-conference play. They have a road win at Evansville on their resume. They're 20th in the country in defensive field goal percentage, 39% allowed. They can hit their free throw percentage is pretty solid. They're efficient offensively, 76 points per game, pretty solid. They've got some really good talent. I like Ty Hudson and Jamal Gregory, Jason Burnell. I mean, this is a decent Jacksonville State team, a good Jacksonville State team. If you're looking for sleeper maybe in the Ohio Valley conference tournament time, Jacksonville State, those Gamecocks, they'll give those top 2 teams a battle.
Yeah, Ray Harper was great at West Kentucky. He's been very good at Jacksonville State. Him and Steve Forbes down at East Tennessee State are 2 of the best coaches no one talks about. The truth of the matter, though, in this conference, you've seen over the years, some surprises. East Kentucky a few years ago went to the tournament. Austin Peay under Dave Luce went to the tournament a couple years ago. We've seen Jacksonville State. You're not going to see any surprises this year. And Alan Action saying Belmont can make the second weekend. That is a disastrous opinion. I don't think they're even going to get to the tournament. Belmont is okay. They're not great this year. I don't think anyone's beaten Murray State. I'd be almost blown away if anyone beats Moran. I think Belmont is going to get a rude awakening this week. I think Murray State is really good. Now, if you're going to say, Alan Action, that Murray State could make it too, I would agree with you. I really like what I'm seeing out of this Racer group. But the truth is, this conference, outside of those three teams, is complete dog shit. I mean, it is really bad. I mean, Tennessee Martin and Edwardsville and Eastern Illinois, Tennessee State, Dana Ford's long gone. They're no longer good. Moorhead, I mean, this is a bad conference. SEMO, this is a bad conference. Betting against these teams is generally pretty profitable. These teams are ugly. It's that simple. A couple teams to keep your eye out for, I think, from an ATS perspective. Ian, always like to talk to you on this. I think Hofstra, start to get to know this Pride team. This team is 15-4 against the number. Looking like a team that I think we got to start talking about a little bit, Ian. This team's won like 12 or 13 games in a row. They're on fire. The thing is, they haven't played anyone, but I mean, they're looking like a tournament team. Justin Wright Foreman is fantastic. Just beat Charleston over the weekend, beat them up badly. William & Mary's not very good this year in this conference. Hofstra must get it done. And you know what I like about them, Ian? Free throw percentage. Number 2 in the country from the free throw line. Defensively, I think that's the biggest thing about this team. They have really picked it up from a defensive perspective. They're giving up 69 points a game this year. And Ian, I know you know this. What was the biggest problem this Hofstra team's had over the years?
Well, defense is one of it. And I'll see you mention the defense. Joe Mihalik's changed his defensive scheme. He played man-to-man defense in years past. He's playing zone this year, and it's doing Hofstra a lot of good. And it's really helped their defensive efficiency. They seem more comfortable playing that. It's slowed down their pace of their games just a little bit as well. They're still scoring the ball a ton. There's 86, 87 points. Their schedule is going to get a little bit tougher, though. They got a lot of road games coming up. In fact, they got 3 road games in a row. James Madison, Towson, and Northeastern. And Northeastern is the game where I'm hoping Hofstra. What I'm going to do is I don't know how to argue with that. They're in terms of their ATS results so far. They're 15-4 against the spread. They've been a tremendous team, 17-3 straight up on the season. But I hope they take care of business against James Madison, and they probably should. Take care of business against Towson. They probably should. And then I get an inflated number on Hofstra, and I take Northeastern against them when they go at Northeastern for that 3rd road game in a row. Because Northeastern, to me, is a pretty good basketball team here in this conference, one that can maybe stand toe-to-toe with Hofstra. But, yeah, right now, they've still got the offensive ability. They can hit their free throws. Justin Wright Foreman, Jaquil Taylor, Eli Pemberton, Tarek Coburn. I mean, this is a talented team, offensively proficient, hits their free throws. Defensively, with the change to playing to 2-3 zone, it's benefited them. It's made them a better defensive team. A lot to like about Hofstra. I'm just thinking that Northeastern spot, 3rd road game in as many games, that's going to be a good bet against spot for this Hofstra team. They might slip up on that one.
14 wins in a row for Hofstra, 81% from the line. I misspoke. They're now the number 1 team in the country from a free throw percentage. They also have a kid who you're going to obviously hear, the Foremans and the Pembertons and everybody, but they have a kid named Desir Bowie. He's from the Bronx. He's 6 foot, like 150. Isn't going to give you a ton offensively, but he is a terrific point guard. There is nothing better to me, Ian, than a team that's really good that has a terrific point guard. He's cut down on the turnovers. It's not been a problem. He's only averaging about 2 turnovers a game. I really like what I'm seeing out of this Bowie kid. He has really played some great basketball for Mihalik's team. When you have a team, Ian, and you're a team like Hofstra, if you could score the way they do, defend the way they do, if you just have that point guard, that doesn't turn it over, doesn't try to do too much. I mean, what more can you ask for? It's truly the gift that keeps on giving. He's 41st in the country in assist to turnover ratio out of a lot of kids. So good for him, doing a great job up there at Hofstra. Shout out to Desir Bowie, a great player. Rutgers 4-point lead, 6:30 to go. Ian, Iowa State 38-31. At Kansas, they're starting to get a nice sizable lead there. Let's check in at Philadelphia.
There's something wrong with Kansas. There's something wrong with Kansas. Yeah. The more I'm starting to see them, they're not looking right now. And I know it's too early to hit the panic button. It's January 21st. I understand that. There's lots of season to go. Team can be cold going into March and then finally hit that switch and come out of nowhere and make a run in the tournament. I don't get all of that. But still, right now, I don't like what I'm seeing from Bill Self's team, not even a little bit.
Yeah, Houston's killing me with this total. They have 4 points in 6 minutes. I mean, Houston is getting destroyed in this game. Joel Embiid is killing it. This is ugly down in Philadelphia. Almost a 30-point lead for the Sixers. They're moving in on a 30-point lead. Look, I also want to comment on Ben Simmons. I've seen Ben Simmons. To me, I think he's beginning to melt as a professional. I know people won't talk about it, but Ben Simmons continues to not improve as a player. He still can't shoot the ball. Why? Yet every time I see the guy, he's out on the town with fucking Kendall Jenner. Listen, I've said on Saturday, if you could, Ian, give me one person to trade my life with, it would be Ben Simmons. And I mean that. Out of every person on earth, he would be the guy I would trade with. He's got a ton of money. He's good looking. He's tall. He's got a hot girlfriend, probably the most hot girl on the planet. She has a ton of money. I mean, he's, really good at something. He's got an accent. I mean, he's 22. I mean, what more could you want as a human being, Ian? Ben Simmons is your prototypical male. I mean, he's the male everyone wants to be. Yet I still am irritated with this guy. The other day, I was very irritated with his inability to shoot the basketball, and it's hurting this team. Is he having a great season? Yeah. I'm seeing him melt. He's commenting on things that are weird. He seems to not improve his shooting issues, and I wonder what's going on when he leaves the court. What does he do all summer, Ian? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a good question. What is he doing? He's not working on his game? That's for sure. He's working on his game in a particular body part region.
He's working on his
looks
dick
of
game.
Things. Yeah, exactly. He's working on that kind of game right now more than anything else. But yeah, I mean, it's an issue. I mean, obviously focus. And I remember a Mike Leach speech years and years ago where I saw it on YouTube in one of his famous speeches. And we need not just that, but he's talking about focus for his team, and he says you got to have your whole mind focused on the game. One part of your mind can't be thinking here and there. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do this. Your other part of your mind's thinking I'm here. I'm there. I'm going to do this. And he's actually doing like the motion of his hand into his head when he's doing it too. It's hilarious. And he's right.
Hey, Ian.
You can't have yes.
Ian, real quick. We just lost West Kentucky first half. This team, man, I'm telling you, man, Ian, explain this to me, okay? Because I'd like to hear it, okay?
You're starting to get a little upset with them. You're right. You've had some tough luck with them now. This isn't the first time.
They're up 24-19 with 40 seconds to go. 24-19.
Yep.
Okay? John Elmore makes a three. Okay? They have the ball. They turn it over. And then Marshall makes another three. Marshall scores 6 points in the final 40 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
They basically kept John Elmore in check for, 19 minutes and 30 seconds or 20 seconds. And that was about it after that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I made some money with them, but I think that's got to be it with them for a little. I mean, I don't know what else to do with them. So what are you going to do, right? But
Marshall's a
continue
good
with
team.
your
We have
point.
to remember that too. Marshall's a very good team, but yeah, that's a tough way to end the half. There's no question about that. 6-0 run to end the half is not the way you want to go into halftime if you're Rick Stansbury. How about Rutgers now? 62-56, 66-62 now, leading Nebraska, 3:38 to go. Baylor 36. I just had the gut feeling that West Virginia, that was not going to be the sign of a turnaround. That win against Kansas, that was just one of those one-offs, and it could be back to the same old Mountaineers in their next game, and it's looking like that right now. Down 12 at home to a Baylor team that, to be honest with you, I don't love this Baylor team by any stretch, and West Virginia is struggling against them.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Yeah, Ian, I wanted to get your opinion on UFC this weekend. First on Greg Hardy.
Oh, what's to say about it? It was an embarrassment, really. I mean, first of all, you got to wonder how it's all about money and eyeballs and attention. And Dana White knows damn well this guy was a former NFL football player, kicked out of the league because of domestic violence. But hey, Greg Hardy being in the UFC means people are going to be, hey, what's Greg Hardy's in the UFC now? Maybe I got to check this out here, see what he's doing. That's what it's all about. That's what it boils down to. That's why he's in the UFC. I'm not even convinced he has the skill set as a mixed martial artist to be in the UFC. But hey, he's Greg Hardy, played in the NFL. We can bring him in and we can attract interest that way. And sure enough, and Dana White's making all this nonsense and bullshit and saying, oh, everybody deserves a second chance and all that, yada, yada, yada. Well, you know what? If it's not an former NFL football player that's in this spot, you wouldn't have given him the time of day in the UFC. So stop with that BS. As far as I'm concerned, because he's a former NFL football player, and you're going to put him in there because he's going to bring some extra attention, some extra ratings, maybe a little extra money for a pay-per-view buy down the road. That's what it's all about. Greg Hardy being in the UFC, nothing more than that. And sure enough, what does the idiot do in his first big-time UFC fight? Now, he fought in the Dana White Contender Series, which is why he got the contract, and he was impressive. Knocked out a bunch of cream puffs to get the contract for the UFC. But in his first big fight, Saturday night for Greg Hardy, what does he do? Illegal knee, disqualification, ends up losing the fight to Crowder, and just an absolute debacle, really, that he would do something like that he would not know the rules of MMA. It makes you think, what is going through this guy's head? What's going through this guy's mind, knowing that you can't throw a knee to an opponent in the position that Crowder was in at the time, but Greg Hardy does it anyway. He ends up losing the fight and gets disqualified. What a first impression for your first major fight in the UFC to end up getting disqualified for using an illegal knee. Bravo, Greg Hardy. Looks like your brain is just as bad as your respect for women. That's apparently on full display right now.
Yeah, I mean, he just keeps making these stupid, dumb mistakes. And credit to Crowder. I thought at one point he was going to get up, and I'm like, don't get up, dude. What are you doing? Just lay down. Act like you're hurt. You want the DQ. But Ian, I want to do one final thought on West Kentucky, who, I'll tell you what, Ian. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had like 4 or 5 losses by 5 points combined, probably. I mean, I've done really well over the last like 60 days, but I mean, I've had some tough beats on losses, man. I mean, it could have been a much bigger, much different. But I wanted to tell you about this. Now, up until the minute 15 mark of the first half, do you know what Marshall was shooting from 3?
It couldn't have been good.
They were 0 for 13. And they make 3 threes in the final minute and 15 seconds.
Yep, there you go.
Seriously.
That's
tough. What? But you know what? We're handicappers. That's our fault. Remember. Come on. I mean, it was 22-16 with a minute 38 to go. And you're down at the half. This West Kentucky team, I've never seen a team blow leads like they do. Like a quick 2. Like
They have
it's
so many.
amazing.
They have so many lapses and lulls in games. It's unbelievable. They've had millions
Yeah.
of them. They'll have 10 or 8 or 10 different lapses and 6-0, 8-0 spurts go against them in games, and it's been repeated. It happened against Florida International. It happened the first time they played Marshall. It happened against Old Dominion. It's happened. Go on down the list. Every recent opponent, there's been a big time, multiple big runs made against them. That's a lack of focus, lack of concentration, lapses, lulls, falling asleep when you think you've got a nice little lead. That's a bad job by Western Kentucky, and it's not the first time they've done it.
I want to make this clear though, and you would hope this gets figured out as the season goes on. I think I'm 3-2 on West Kentucky this year. 3-2 with their bets. You look at the final minute though. I see couple turnovers continues to be a problem for this team. But you're up 5 with 40 seconds to go, and you go into the half. Like I get, like John Elmer makes a 3. It's a 2-point game with 22 seconds left. But I mean, how do you go down at the half up 5 with 40 seconds? That's amazing. But 0 for 13 from 3, and they make 3 in the final minute and 15 seconds. That's tough. That's a tough fucking beat. Jesus Christ. They have 15 turnovers, Ian, at half. 15. Wow. There's 25 turnovers in this game in 20 minutes.
And now I get to cry. And now my turn to cry a little bit because now Creighton's up by 6 on Georgetown. Georgetown's now starting to fall behind a little bit. So, yeah, it's going great here on a Monday night, right here on Off the Board. It's going fantastic.
I will say this, by the way, back to Crowder Hardy. What is illegal? Why is that illegal? Like, why can't you knee someone? Like, I don't get that.
It's because he has to be in a standing position, upright, standing fully, for that to happen. You can't be. He was like right on the mat at the time, and it's just you cannot. That's the rule, and it's not so much whether you agree with the rule or not. It was bad and stupid for him to do it because you have to know the rule, whether you agree with it or not. That's the rule. In the position Crowder was in at the time, you cannot deliver a knee to your opponent when he's in that position. You can't. And Greg Hardy did anyway. That is an MMA fighter, a professional, a so-called professional. You have to know that. He didn't, apparently.
Yeah, I had Henry Cejudo. I was very happy with that performance over the weekend. Ian,
I love MMA, Jeff. I really do. I hate some of the Dana White antics going on, but I love the sport and that it's exciting. You can have different ways of winning a match. It's you can knock them out with obviously your fists, but there's kickboxing elements, there's submission, jiu-jitsu elements, Muay Thai. I mean, it is a well-rounded brand of fighting, and it's there's always some duds. There are some fights that are duds. There's no question. But I would say that you get more than 50%, close to 60%, the fights are usually very good. And I always enjoy watching UFC.
Yeah. No, what's the next big fight, Ian?
They're off, I think, this weekend, but there's some big stuff coming up for UFC. There's the big ESPN event coming up next month, their first television card. There's a pay-per-view coming up next month as well. Kelvin Gastelum against Robert Whittaker. Headlining that pay-per-view. That's going to be a really, really good fight. This Israel Adesanya, by the way, is in the co-main event on that pay-per-view. This guy is the real deal. He is going to be a superstar, I think, in the UFC. He has annihilated everybody he's fought. Israel Adesanya, remember that name. This guy is going to be big time in the UFC coming right up.
Yeah, I've heard his name around. God, this West Kentucky, get off my screen. I don't want to see you ever again. Go away. All right, guys. Good stuff from Ian, as always. Always a wealth of sports knowledge.
Hey, let's give him something on Warriors Lakers before we go out. Yeah, only one game left, and it's that one. I actually do have a decent opinion on this one. Look, the LA Lakers are a banged up basketball team. You do, huh?
Yeah.
I don't want him here. The LA Lakers are a banged up team. We know LeBron's been out for a while. Rondo's out still. And now Lonzo Ball. Say what you will about Lonzo Ball, but when he got injured the other night, now he's out 4 to 6 weeks. The Lakers fell apart against Houston the other night without him on the basketball court. And now you're down Ball. Rondo's already out. LeBron's already out. And now you're facing the Golden State Warriors for the first time since Christmas Day, when the Lakers not only beat Golden State, They annihilated and embarrassed Golden State, 127-101 on Christmas Day at Oracle. This is payback time as far as I'm concerned for Golden State. And if you've been betting Golden State, big man, in these spots where same season revenge, they lost the most recent meeting to the team and they get to play them again, I think they're damn near perfect, both straight up and against the spread against those teams when they're in revenge. And that's the situation here for Golden State. They got embarrassed by the Lakers on Christmas Day. And now this Golden State Warriors team is flying high. They absolutely kicked the living shit out of Denver in a game recently. They're averaging 130 points over their last 7 games. They finally got DeMarcus Cousins. Long lost DeMarcus Cousins finally is back. Made his debut in the last game against the Clippers. They routed the Clippers 112-94. So now this is a fully healthy, loaded for bear Golden State team playing a team that embarrassed them on Christmas Day at home. Payback time. I like the Warriors first quarter. I like the Warriors first half. Not so much full game, but I think I focus a little bit on the full game too at -13, but more on Golden State first quarter, first half. I think they come out and try to prove a point and stomp a mud hole in this injury-riddled Laker team.
I don't. You might be right. I'm going to go the other way. I'll have fun with you here, Ian. I'll go the other way.
I will say something positive though about the Lakers. With LeBron being out, they found something with Kyle Kuzma. I got to give that guy credit. He's played great. He's played absolutely terrific in the time that LeBron James has been out for this LA Lakers team. He's been awesome. Brandon Ingram's picked up his play as well during this time. So you got to give the Lakers credit. They've battled. They've tried to make do without LeBron, but now they got to do it without Lonzo Ball too. Rondo's still out. The bodies and the injuries are piling up now, and they're piling up probably at a bad time with maybe the ornery mood the Warriors might be in, considering what happened to them the last time they played this Lakers team. It's a lot of points to lay on the road. There's no question. That's why I kind of like Golden State more in the first half and the first quarter, those bets rather than the full game. But yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, in my opinion, tonight for the LA Lakers.
Did want to update everyone. I'm sure everyone's curious. Portland getting beaten up. Let's go, Jazz. 45-36. I'm coming for you, King Rail. I'm taking your spot, bruv. Let's go, bruv. Come on, baby. Let's go, Ian Cameron. We're rooting against the Jazz tonight. I want to see. He's also, Ian, on this late game. I don't know his pick yet, but he is on it. So we'll see. I, for the record, though, like the Lake Show. All right, guys. Everyone have a great night. Ian, as always, thanks for joining us, my friend. You are the king of rightwager.com. You're the best. Thank you. Ian,
wow.
Leave us something.
Let's leave him with the little teaser for Tuesday in college basketball. Games I've circled. SEC is appealing to me more than anything on tomorrow's card. First look, the South Carolina game. The South Carolina +7 is calling my name. Auburn on the road after tough, hard-fought loss to Kentucky. I don't trust them going on the road laying points. South Carolina laid an egg against LSU, but now they're back home. They've been a feisty group. They might be a live home dog there. And how do I not give some serious consideration to the Ole Miss Rebels +1 at Alabama? I know on the road, but Ole Miss, they just absolutely bounced back in a big way, blew out their most recent opponent on Saturday in impressive fashion. And I think at Alabama, they got a chance to win that game. I love everything that I'm seeing from that Ole Miss team. They rebounded from that one clunker they had against LSU in style. I think they got a chance to win in Tuscaloosa tomorrow night.
Yeah, that might be a good play. You got to wonder where Alabama's head is after the game the other night against Tennessee. A quick update down in South Philly. We have a 94-63 game. I mean, Houston puts up 13 in the fucking third quarter. What a piece of shit team. Fucking clowns. Fuck you, Houston. Fucking pussies. What a shit performance. Without James Harden, you guys would be in the fucking street. You fucking bums. Fuck, man.
They've lost their identity right now. You just bet against them. Yeah, just bet against the Rockets routinely now. You should be doing okay because this team is, they've looked out of sorts, out of whack completely as of late. And I think a lot of it, as I've said many times, it goes back to Capella's absence. That's your best defender by far on this basketball team for a team that doesn't play much defense to begin with, and you're seeing why.
Brutal. I mean, just getting run in the building. By the way, Meek Mill at the game dressed like it's 2006. I don't know what that's all about. Meek, Meek, you need a stylist, bro. What's going on? But then again, I mean, I don't think I should be talking to people about style either. But I do have a cool Mac Miller shirt on today. Ian, great stuff as always. Always like talking to you. And we'll talk to you again next Monday. Everybody have a great night. Thanks as always. Hopefully you have a safe. It is very cold here, Ian, in PA. It is currently 14 degrees here. So pray for us. Everyone have a great night, Ian. Thanks for joining us.
All right, guys. Have a good night.